Hello and welcome to another episode of the Morning Brew. We are live on NTN. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us. Today is Monday, the 19th of October, 2020. We're coming off of a weekend with new cases of COVID-19. And I do hope wherever you are on island and even abroad that you are doing your part to ensure that you can protect yourself and your family from this deadly virus. We would like to welcome you if you are watching on air online, if you're watching via Facebook, YouTube, on the go this morning. But if you're at home, you've already settled into office today. We do hope that you're huddled up and staying tuned and keeping abreast to what is happening in St. Lucia. Thank you so much for tuning in. We want to open with a clip from the CMO, the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Bilmar-George, speaking on these latest cases that were confirmed yesterday. She did indicate that case number 34, number 35, and number 36. We now have 36 cases of COVID-19 here on island. So please take note. We now go to a clip of the Chief Medical Officer giving us an update on these three new cases.
Today, Sunday, October 18th, 2020, the Ministry of Health received confirmation of three new cases of COVID-19. Cases 34, 35, and 36. Case 34 is a 21-year-old male who is the son of COVID-19 case number 31, the 47-year-old male from Castries who was diagnosed on October 14, 2020. The second case, case number 35, is a 23-year-old female who is a close contact of the cases 30, 31, 32, and 34. These two newly diagnosed cases were identified during the contact tracing process being undertaken by the health team in response to the cases which were diagnosed during this past week. The third case, case number 36, is a 21-year-old male who participated in one of the COVID-19 community testing drives which was recently conducted. This individual is linked to case number 33.
That was the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Bilmar-George. We'll be hearing from her shortly. But just to continue with information on this latest statement from the CMO, in all three of these cases, there was no travel into St. Lucia. Upon receiving their confirmed COVID-19 test results, they were transferred to the respiratory hospital for care. Though the Ministry of Health, I'm just reading from the press release, though the Ministry of Health has been able to establish a link among the cases 29 to 36, it is important that we all bear in mind the likelihood of community transmission, and that means ensuring that you play your part, adhering to the protocols that have long been established, a frequent washing of hands, use of hand sanitizer, the wearing of the mask. I'm doing it right here in studio. And while I don't have any guests this morning or any co-hosts, it is important that we begin to set an example of the continuous use of the mask, especially at this time when there is this heightened concern for the COVID-19. So please take note of this update. Case 34, 35, and 36 confirmed yesterday, 18th October, Sunday, 18th October 2020. We are just going to go over the lead stories for today. We did have the NEMAC meeting being held on Friday, and we're going to give you some information on what transpired, at least earlier on in the meeting, what is open to the general public. We do have infrastructural upgrades that are set for ancillary as village tourism takes shape in that community, the details of which will come to you in just a moment. Fishermen receiving life-saving equipment. Also, we're coming back to the CMO. She's speaking on the closure of schools for this week and for the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School for the next 2 weeks. This is not a time for liming. That is the word from her. We'll be hearing from her in just a moment. She was speaking to us on Saturday during our weekend review, going over the COVID-19 situation, her part in the NEMAC meeting, as well as speaking on dengue. So we'll be touching on that in a little bit later on. And fake news, a case of fake news. We're advising the general public to follow the official lines of communication. What is happening? What is the Office of the Prime Minister saying? What are the government sites saying? What is the Royal St. Lucia Police Force saying? Directly from their social media handles, directly from their official emails. That is what you should be listening to, not just anything that is circulating in the media. We did have a case of fake news being circulated, and speaking to many more cases than had been confirmed by health officials. So just going to touch on that and reinforce the fact that we need to listen to what is official. We also have an update from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, speaking on giving us an update that from Friday, October 16th, approval for all loudspeaker permits are suspended. So we have the details to these and more coming up in just a moment. Do stay with us.
Cette lisi ka registre vermin corona ek I ka fait mouvement ek en chay vitesse tan chaque canef ka kouye pour vigilance publique la fait wolo parler en place publique kon bon lanme base ti boutique changer distance sociale 6 pieds Rodyon à l'autre. I ka travail tan, si ou senti ko pa cordial, quarantine ko, pas en contact et puis l'autre, en cas où te toi pe exposé. C'est un écouye, free 11 ou ben n'importe clinique yo pou. Les pays a 10 000 à clé, ça veut dire les supermarkets, pharmacies et puis ATM, yo accessible avant c'était souhait. Pays à clé en plein, ça veut dire tout bagay fermé à 24 heures. Servi protocole comme sorti par bureau indication santé. Nous tout ensemble, ça sauver vermine corona. Si nous tous servi Jidla à toutes les.
Together let us win this war. Say we shall be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. This is another episode of the Morning Brew. And just before we went to break, we heard from the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Belmar-George, speaking on the latest cases of COVID-19. We've so far confirmed 3 new cases, case number 34, 35, and 36. And the word from the CMO is that these cases are linked all the way back to case number. There's a link between cases 29 to 36. So there is definitely the concern on the part of the officials for the likelihood of community spread. We do hope that you're playing your part to ensure that you protect yourself, your family, and the population at large at this time. We continue with news this morning. The schools are currently closed. All schools, with the exception of the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, are closed for 1 week, and the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School is closed for 2 weeks. And the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Belmar-George, did indicate to us on Saturday that teachers and students were coming in to be tested from the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School. We know that a student of that school tested positive for COVID-19 earlier last week. And so students and teachers were coming in to be tested to ensure, to find out about their status. And she also did make an appeal to students island-wide at this point in time to not make this opportunity that school is closed, you can go out or you can meet or socialize in groups and gatherings in town or wherever. It is an opportunity to stay close to family at this time. It's an opportunity to stay indoors and to protect yourself at this time of great uncertainty. So I just want to have you listen to a clip from the CMO impressing upon you students that this is a time to really hunker down.
This is an important time when we really want to reduce transmission and we want to reduce the social gathering. So it's not a time for alarming. It's not a time to go and plan a beach party because you're not at school. We want to limit those activities. And we realize the huge mental health impact of lockdowns and shutting. So that is why a lot of it we're saying, stick to your family unit. You can go to the beach, but go with your family unit. Don't have a beach party where you have people from all over the island mixing and intermingling. If you're doing a boat ride, let it be a small boat ride. If you're small social groups, your family groups, and not the general public all mixing up together. So for the students who have been asked to stay home as much as possible, try to keep them home and in a safe environment. And it's not a time where they group up and gang up in different areas. We want as much as possible to cut whatever transmission that may be out there at this time.
So that was the Chief Medical Officer appealing to students to make the best of it, make the best of this time in terms of staying indoors as much as possible and protecting yourself from any possibility of transmission. Community outreach continues. We know that testing has been feverish in the last week or so. Minibus operators have been tested. That was when we confirmed case number 29. There was a week of testing for minibus operators here on island. The teachers, the students of the Catchfish Comprehensive Secondary School being tested. And there's also been community outreach activity in Olio, and that continues. We've heard from the Ministry of Health and Wellness that outreach is continuing. Just to read from a press release, as part of efforts to investigate and undertake contact tracing in relation to the recently diagnosed cases number 29 to 36 of COVID-19, the Ministry of Health will be undertaking the necessary interventions in communities, including assessments and health education. The Ministry of Health invites residents of the community of Oleon Dennery to an outreach activity at the Paradise Inn in Oleon Dennery on Monday, October 19th, 2020, that is today, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. for assessment and testing for COVID-19. The intervention will also focus on health education, on infection and prevention control measures such as the use of face masks and hand hygiene. The ministry asks for your cooperation and participation in this activity. So please take note, the outreach activity in Oleon continues today, Monday, October 19, 2020, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. for assessment and testing for this virus. So please take note of that. If you're in that area, you've not yet gotten tested, it is an opportunity to do just that. And the Office of the Commissioner of Police, that's the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, wishes to inform the general public that commencing Friday, October 16th, 2020, approval for all loudspeaker permits are suspended until further notice. Anyone who received prior approval either for Friday and any future date is hereby notified that such permission has been revoked. This measure is necessary at this time to assist in the national COVID-19 control efforts. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force apologizes and wishes to express its understanding for the inconvenience this may cause, but reminds all affected parties that our health and safety are foremost. We further advise that whilst gatherings of no more than 100 persons in attendance are permissible, the playing of any amplified music is prohibited. This measure will be reviewed once the public health officials have deemed it safe to do so, and a notice of the reinstatement of permits will be published. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force continues to urge our citizenry to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols, particularly as they relate to social distancing and the wearing of masks in public forums. Stay safe, St. Lucia. That is the latest word from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and that is coming off of the increase in cases, the new cases that we confirmed last week. And before we get into, the lead stories for the 24-hour news cycle, we have, a case of fake news emerging from this weekend. Individuals on standby waiting to find out just how far, things have gotten. And, there was a publication being circulated of far more cases than have so far been confirmed by the officials. And we would like to inform you that this is a case of fake news. St. Lucia has only recorded 36 cases of COVID-19. 36. And yesterday, it was only 3 new cases confirmed by the Chief Medical Officer. So any information that you might receive that might have the stamp of official stamp at the top of it is fake. This is not the word that we've received from the Chief Medical Officer. Please take note of that. We continue this morning with news on the NEMAC meeting that was held on Friday, October 16, 2020. The Ministry of Health received confirmation of a new case of COVID-19, and that was the 14-year-old male, that's the student. The Cabinet of Ministers met in an emergency session on Friday morning to discuss the unfolding developments. Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chasney activated the National Emergency Management Advisory Committee, that is NEMAC, and a special meeting was held by Friday afternoon. And we did have a live broadcast of the earlier proceedings of that meeting. Alyssa Joseph was there to host. Take a look.
Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chasney told the NEMAC meeting that at this time the country will not be shut down, nor will curfew be imposed. Rather, strict enforcement of established protocols by the Royal St. Lucia Police Force will be in effect as the Ministry of Health manages what is now community spread of COVID-19. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar George says a contact tracing app will be introduced to aid in the fight. All schools island-wide will remain closed for 1 week, and the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School closed for 2 weeks. During this period, the Ministry of Health and Wellness will continue to conduct its necessary screenings, the results of which will help determine the way forward. The ministry says instruction will revert to the multifaceted approach of online learning and safe distribution of instructional packages from teachers during the period students are at home.
We are presently at 500 persons. The decision to reduce mass crowd activities to limit it to 100 as we monitor and manage the situation on the ground. All sectors with the phased reopening of the economy presented plans, COVID-19 safety plans to allow the safe reopening of their organizations. We noted over the last few weeks a level of complacency and non-adherence to those. There'll be strict enforcement of protocols from community markets to nightclubs to dances to beach parties to weddings, funerals, church activities. And boat rides will be limited to family excursions only, taking out the public boat rides, which pose a risk to us. So all of those activities will be strictly enforced per protocols or run the risk of losing their licensing or being closed within very short measures. Also, we're coming close to the Journée Créole activities. Those will be limited to family home activities, and the community activities will not be allowed.
Health Minister Senator Mary Isaac called on everyone to play their part in keeping the country safe.
When you're in a community and you see a person who's supposed to be in Martinique or supposed to be somewhere else and the person just show up, you need to be able to report that to the authorities. You have to, we all have to do what is necessary for us to contain this virus. It may well be our own lives that we are saving.
Prime Minister Alan Chasney stressed that this is not the time for panic, but collective action.
The only way we can protect ourselves is by being each other's brother's keeper. It's the only way. And we have to have zero tolerance. We were getting away with it because for the most part, we didn't have it in our communities. We now know we have it in our communities. And that's why I'm saying to you, we don't need to wait until tomorrow or next week to find out what the numbers are. The remedy is the same. Persons who are currently infected, can't change that. We need to try to help them find out that they are infected, get them to quarantine as quickly as possible, but the rest of us need to be safe practices. And I assure you, there's a study that came out today that said if you're in a plane and everybody's wearing their face mask, even if there are individuals who have COVID on that plane, you minimize the likelihood of you becoming affected by wearing your mask.
The Chief Medical Officer says it is anticipated and expected that St. Lucia would have to manage small waves of COVID-19 without going through extreme measures. From the Government Information Service, Lisa Joseph reporting.
Lisa Joseph there on the NEMAC meeting held on Friday. Do stay with us. When we come back, we have more news. Coming up, we have the check presentation that was held in the village of Ancillary for funds to go towards the Village Tourism Initiative. The details to that story is coming up in just a moment.
She's been watching, waiting, wondering when the sands of time will give way to a tide of change, and for yesterday and today to become a new tomorrow. For a time when her sun can kiss the cheeks of your loved one, and her stars can twinkle in her honeymoon skies. When her earthly embrace will reassure and calm your soul. And her unique view can change your whole perspective. Proudly, she has risen to meet new challenges and to provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores. dreams still stand, shoulder to shoulder, a precious reminder of experiences yet to come. So, wherever your moments and memories take you, let her sense of adventure set you free. She is Saint Lucia. Let her inspire you.
Ancillary is one of 3 pilot communities for village tourism scheduled to undergo upgrades of the waterfront and Front Street. The upgrades form part of the village tourism community infrastructure improvement component. A check presentation of the funds for the initiative was held in the village on Thursday, 15th October 2020. We come off of the Morning Brew break with this report. Financing for the first village tourism hotel on the island has been secured. This project will form part of the transformation of Ancillary, backed by the Republic of China, Taiwan, to the tune of US $1,865,671 under the Bilateral Cooperation Agreement grant for 2020. Taiwanese Ambassador, His Excellency Peter Shen, handed over a check for the sum to Tourism Minister and Parliamentary Representative for the area, Honorable Dominic Fede, during a ceremony held at the waterfront of the fishing village on Thursday, 15th October 2020.
Ancillary will have the opportunity to host the first village tourism hotel right in the location where the police station building is. That's component number 1 of the project. There will be 10 bedrooms, and we will put this building up to tender to any resident who would like to run this facility as a small business. The rental fees goes to the village council, and so there's an opportunity for anybody in Ancillary who can come up with a brilliant business proposal to run that facility as your very own business. This will no doubt create several jobs for the community. It will bring about a tremendous economic spin-off. Our shops, our bars, our restaurants are going to be better patronized by our international clientele.
Other components of Ancillary's transformation consist of village square redevelopment, rehabilitation of the fish fry building, and a new restaurant to be constructed at the site of the old community center on the waterfront.
The Ministry of Infrastructure, they have rendered this building structurally unsound. And because the structure is compromised, they have actually recommended it for demolition. And so by next week, we should be rolling in with the excavator and other equipment to demolish this building and let the transformation of a great restaurant begin. And on the waterfront here, another business opportunity for another business person in Ancillary to come and to put a business proposal forward to the village council, working with the Ministry of Tourism, the Ancillary Development Foundation, and we will together determine who has the best ideas to run a proper restaurant facility on the waterfront.
Speaking in his capacity and on behalf of the Prime Minister, Honorable Alan Chasney, Honorable Guy Joseph expressed thanks to Taiwan for backing the transformation of Ancillary.
I must take the opportunity to say special thanks to the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan, for such a generous contribution in these difficult times. Further, when we came into government, we sat with the Taiwanese embassy and we said, while we love the T-Canal projects and we love the footpaths and we love the concrete roads, we also want projects that would be revenue generating, that would be job creating, not just in the short term, but in the long term for the people of St. Lucia. And they readily accepted.
Ancillary is one of 3 communities on island receiving attention under the Village Tourism Project. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Donald Invite, says work to upgrade Ancillary, Soufrière and Grosselet are part of efforts to refine St. Lucia's tourism product pending full recovery of global tourism.
Village Tourism Initiative is a vehicle that the government will use to build local inclusion. Too long we have been hearing from community residents that it's expats who own accommodation properties. We want to ensure that you too get your piece of the pie. We want you to become self-sufficient. We want you to assist us in improving the linkages. We need to use the downtime that we have right now because of COVID to get ready, so that when the doors finally burst open, we will have our fair, graceful and stately position to announce that St. Lucia is prepared, that Ancillary is prepared.
The transformation projects for Ancillary are scheduled for completion in February 2021. For the Government Information Service, I am Jessie Leonce reporting. And as the government of St. Lucia continues to reduce the impacts of climate change, the fisheries sector has received some much-needed equipment. Over 200 VHF radios valued at $80,000 have been presented to fishers. We have more in this report from Anicia Antoine over at the Ministry of Agriculture.
The Departments of Fisheries and Telecommunications, in collaboration with the Global Environment Facility, GEF, and the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, through the Climate Change Adaptation in the Eastern Caribbean Project, CC4Fish Project, have procured a total of 200 very high-frequency radios for fisherfolk around the island. The VHF radios will enable fishermen to dialogue over substantial distances on marine radio channels and is an invaluable fishing tool that alerts marine police during moments of distress. 2 marine repeaters have also been purchased for the north and south of the island in an effort to reinitiate the use of VHF radios amongst fisherfolk. Acting Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Physical Planning, Natural Resources and Cooperatives, Honorable Harold Stanislaus, says the procurement of these equipment is in keeping with the objective of the CC4Fish project to increase resilience and reduce vulnerability to climate change impacts in the Eastern Caribbean fisheries sector.
The installation of the marine repeaters and distribution of the VHF radios are contributing to the second overarching goal of the National Adaptation Plan for St. Lucia, which is to accelerate the implementation of climate adaptation and risk reduction actions critical to safeguarding the country's socio-economic and environmental systems. Furthermore, the introduction of the VHF radios are consistent with the expected outcomes of the St. Lucia Fisheries Sectoral Adaptation Strategy Action Plan by strengthening preparedness for climate variability and extremes in the fisheries sector.
Parliamentary Representative for Ancillary Canneries, Honorable Dominic Fede, expressed gratification on behalf of the fishermen of his constituency for the newly acquired equipment.
For a long time now, you've heard stories about fishermen being lost at sea. We can't find them. Their loved ones, their families go through the agony, the pain. And I think that this is going to help to address that problem. So really congratulations to the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries for a well thought out initiative. It is quite important what they're doing. And I support it wholeheartedly, representing a constituency where many of the residents there do rely on fishing for their livelihoods.
The license fee for the VHF radios have been waived by the government of St. Lucia. From the Information Unit of the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Anicia Antoine reporting.
Thank you, Anicia, for that story. When we come back, we have Anicia once again with another report as the Taiwan Technical Mission continues to lend support to St. Lucian farmers. Stay with us.
What does coronavirus have in common with love? Both are highly contagious. Spread love, not the virus. Like you, COVID-19 loves a lime. Beach, river, or fed. Coronavirus is like these people who track every lime just to invade. The best way to put off invaders? Cancel the lime. Spread love, not the virus. Keep you and your crew corona-free. Live to lime another day.
Together let us win this war. Said Lucia be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
Thank you so much for staying with us. The government of the Republic of China, Taiwan, continues to lend support to St. Lucian farmers. Here's Anicia Antoine once again with a report.
In an effort to increase farmer production and sustainability, the Ministry of Agriculture, in partnership with the Taiwan ICDF, have been supporting farmers with various initiatives, including farmer training in areas of product development and marketing. At the recently held graduation ceremony for the 2020 Region 6 Farmer Training, the Ambassador of the Republic of China Taiwan to St. Lucia, His Excellency Peter Shen, reaffirmed his government's commitment to assisting St. Lucian farmers.
According to the statistics, St. Lucia spends more than 6 million EC dollars importing fruits and vegetables such as cabbage, watermelon, cantaloupe, and tomatoes each year. And the import value has been increasing. So what if we could purchase them locally instead of buying from overseas, and more specifically, buying from your farms? So that's the reason why the government of Taiwan is working with the government of St. Lucia to promote local produce and consumption of the 7 important crops on a sustainable basis and hosting this training program.
A participant of the 2020 Farmer Training, Iverson Calixt, encouraged farmers to make use of the knowledge received throughout the training.
I also want to encourage us all not only correctly apply the practices from this certification course, but also to hold one another accountable for doing so. Our value to the St. Lucian economy cannot be overstated, but we must cement this by infusing our knowledge into our daily practice. Moreover, I wish to encourage our farming community that although we may be operating in a competitive environment, that we work collaboratively as we share a common objective of improving the overall agricultural sector in St. Lucia.
The 2020 Farmer Training for Region 6 forms part of a series of programs done by the Agriculture Ministry with support from the Taiwan Technical Mission and the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, ICA, under the enhancement of the efficiency of production distribution supply chains in the fruits and vegetable sector project. From the Information Unit of the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Anicia Antoine reporting.
Thank you for that report, Anicia. Well, with that, we wrap up the Morning Brew for today, Monday, the 19th of October, 2020. Just to go over the lead stories, the Chief Medical Officer has confirmed 3 new cases as of Sunday, 18th October, case number 34, 35, and 36. And we've gotten confirmation that between 29 and 36, there is a link between all the cases. The CMO is also advising the students who are off for a week, and in the case of the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, for 2 weeks, to ensure that they stay with family, individuals in their household as much as possible. Do not use this downtime away from school to lime and congregate in town and what have you. It's a time to reduce the risk of transmission of COVID-19. Community outreach activities continue in the all your areas. So today from 3 to 6 p.m., if you're from that area and you have your concerns, you're worried, you can go get tested, get assessed to find out your status where it pertains to COVID-19. Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chasney activates NEMAT meeting as community cases of COVID-19 increase. We await word from the Office of the Prime Minister as to the way forward on that. Infrastructure upgrades set for ancillary as village tourism takes shape and fishermen receive life-saving equipment. We also heard from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force on the suspension of all loudspeaker permits until further notice. Anyone who has received prior approval, it has been revoked. So please take note of that. Testing continues into this week. Teachers, students of the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, we do hope that, in your going out and coming in, even to go find out if you're being, to be assessed and to be tested, that you're going carefully. Ensure that you wear your mask, you carry hand sanitizer. Here at the office, we use copious amounts of hand sanitizer. Ensure that you protect yourself on all fronts, yeah? My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now. This has been another edition of the Morning Brew. Do stay tuned to NTN as the updates come through on COVID-19. Remember, we had a case of fake news over the weekend. Follow all of the official sites, the official social media handles of government, and places like NEMO, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, the Ministry of Health, the Office of the Prime Minister. Follow these sites to ensure that you get the correct information. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. We do hope it is productive and enjoyable despite the circumstances. Goodbye.